Hello everybody, welcome back to Just Lights. In this video we're going to be talking a little bit about the WS Darley 4-way traffic signals. Okay, just to kind of show you real fast how dusty this stuff gets in my shop, after sitting around for a little while. So this is essentially what it looks like before I'm going to clean it up. So let's go ahead and take it outside and get this thing a bath. So back in the early 1920s, WS Darley introduced their first traffic signal, which was the C810, which is a two-section, two-bulb, four-way traffic light. And the way these ones were built is they had the red and the green on the top, the red and the green on the bottom, and they had one light that controlled each section. All right, so once they put those out in the public and started using it, they realized pretty quickly that that wasn't necessarily a good idea, just due to the fact that it didn't give oncoming motorists any kind of pre-warning that the light was fixing to change. It would literally just go from green to red, and that was the end of it. So obviously that was causing traffic issues, probably traffic crashes. So in the late 20s, they introduced their three-section model, which is kind of like the one you see right here, which is their C811. Now on that series, they were still using the single bulb per section. So now it was a three-section, three-bulb light. So they still had the red and green on the top and a red and green on the bottom with the amber in the middle. Now how they gave motorists the warning that the light was fixing to change. Now this was only a single bulb per section, so the whole bottom of the lights, they would be fully lit up. So your two greens, your two reds would be lit up. And what it would do is the yellow would come on for say 5 or 6 seconds while the bottom was still fully lit. And then once it was ready to make its full change, the middle and the bottom would completely shut off and the top would come on at that point. And that's what would give oncoming motorists the warning that the light was fixing to change. Now they ran this series all the way till 1944 when they introduced this model right here that I have, which is the D-200. This one actually has 12 bulbs in it, so it actually has a bulb behind each light, so each one can actually be wired a little bit more individually. But in the beginning, they still adapted the same thing where the amber would come on temporarily while the green would be on, but it'd only be on the side that the green was on to help warn motorists. Now, they only ran it that way for a very short time before they started adapting what you see as a modern day traffic light now, where it just goes green, yellow, red. Now, W.S. Darley manufactured these lights from the early 1920s into the 1950s. They stopped production of these in the 1950s, but these lights stayed in service for a very long time. There's actually still some out there in the wild that are still being used. I haven't seen one in person, but I have seen videos of some that are actually still in service. Much better. All nice and clean, ready to show it off, and unfortunately put it back on the shelf so it can get dusty again. Okay, so for a little bit of a backstory of how I acquired this light, this is actually the longest owned light in my collection. It's not the oldest light, but it's the one I've owned the longest. I've owned this light since 1988. I was actually 8 years old when I got this light. Now, how I got this light is we were on a family vacation up to Iowa to visit some family. And on our way back, my parents had some friends that lived in a small town in northern Georgia. So they wanted to stop by and say hi. Now, during our travels, we had to stop one night at a motel, and overnight, our van got broken into. Somebody smashed out the back window and stole a bunch of stuff. But the next day, we proceeded to my parents' friend's house, and when we got there, my dad, Danny, and myself, we went to a junkyard to see if we could find a back window for the van. Now, back in the 80s, an 8-year-old could walk through a junkyard as long as he was with his parents. Nowadays, you have to be 18 just to get through the gates. But back in the 80s, they really didn't care. Well, while we were walking through this junkyard trying to find that window, I happened to stumble across this in a pile of a couple other ones. And of course, obviously, I asked my dad, "Can I have it?" And he said, "No, we're not here for traffic lights. We're here for a back window for our van." But once we had the window and we got up to the front desk, my dad asked the guy anyways, "Hey, I see you got a couple old traffic lights back there. Would you guys be interested in selling one?" The guy told my dad, "Yeah, we'll sell one of those. $10, it's yours." So my dad was like, "Yeah, that's cheap enough. We can go ahead and do that." So now, of course, I'm super excited. I'm 8 years old. I'm going to get this cool looking traffic light. So we walked back to go get it, and I feel so bad for my dad and Denny. This thing is heavy, and they had to carry this thing all the way from the back of the junkyard all the way to the front of the junkyard. Now, I tried helping wherever I could, but all I was just being in the way. So I had to sit back and watch them carry this thing. All right, so we made it to the van, got it all loaded up, and I had arrived at this thing all the way from a town in northern Georgia to South Florida. But I really didn't care because I had a cool looking traffic light. Once we got it home, the only thing we really had to do to this light was sand it down, repaint it, and I think we had to rewire a couple of the light sockets. Overall, this light is actually in really good condition. The only two blemishes in this entire light is there is a small crack in the casting on the very bottom, and one of the lenses has a BB hole in it. Outside of those two things, the rest of the light is in incredible condition. This is actually one of the prized pieces in my collection. It's the one that actually started my collection. It'll be one of those ones that never leaves my collection, or at least while I'm alive. Well, I hope you all got some good information on the history of the WS Darley light from the early 1920s to the 1950s during its production run. I hope you all found the backstory of how I got this light kind of interesting. I know sometimes the backstory can be just as interesting as the light itself. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this video up. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.